ॐ यो देव सवितास्माकं धियो धर्मादिगोचराः प्रेरयेत्तस्य यद्भर्गः तद्वरेण्यम् उपास्महे। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। गुरुब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भगवद्वेषिणीम्। नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे फुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमयप्रदीपः। प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। सर्वोपनिषदो गावो दुग्धा गोपालनन्दनः पार्थो वत्सः सुधीर्भोक्ता दुग्धं गीतामृतं महत्। ॐ वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्। We were in the third chapter. I think we concluded that third chapter. We will take a recap of the entire third chapter now. And any questions and any doubts in that we will clear today. As we did for the second chapter. We did the second chapter and we did a recap of the whole second chapter, if you remember. We will do that. We will see a chapter. We recap the whole chapter, go to the second chapter. I will introduce the fourth chapter today and leave it. Chapter 3. Karma Yoga. After explaining to Arjuna the nature of the one who is established in knowledge, Sthita Prajna, the nature of a Jnani, a Sthita Prajna, after explaining that. And after explaining the great merits of sannyasa, Arjuna is left with a question. Oh Lord, if sannyasa is so great, why do you ask me to do this dreadful action, which is my dharma, my dharma happens to be that I have to wage this war. Why do you ask me to do this dreadful action? Why can't I take to sannyasa and go ahead? So for that the explanation is, sannyasa is very difficult to attain without karma yoga. So the person who is not qualified for sannyasa has to go through an active life of karma yoga, lived in the spirit of karma yoga, which will prepare a person for sannyasa. Then the person may or may not take sannyasa. They may attain perfection while remaining an active person, or the person may take to the life of a renunciation. There are two kinds of ways of life. Active life, pravritti dharma, which is in which you practice karma yoga. Nivritti dharma, which you have renounced and gone, where you are not, your focus is mainly on knowledge. Though that person also, whenever engaged in action, might do the action automatically with the spirit of karma yoga. So that is how it is, and then he introduces the third chapter. Krishna, if in your contention, knowledge is better than action, why then do you impel me into this gruesome action? And he says, with words that are seemingly contradictory, you seem to confuse my mind. Deciding for good, which is better, tell me the one thing by which I shall gain liberation. Tell me what is best for me. Edekam vada nishchitya. Tad ekam vada nishchitya. One, tell for sure what is that which will take me to Shreyas, the highest good. Okay. Now the Lord starts. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Loke Asmin Vividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Naghara Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. The Lord said, the sinless one, Arjuna, the twofold committed way of life are there in this world. As was told by me in the beginning, the pursuit of knowledge for the renunciates and the pursuit of karma yoga for those who pursue activity. Why in the beginning? As Ishvara. Because all the knowledge begins with Ishvara. Na karmana manarambha naishkarmyam purushoshnude na cha sanyasana deva siddhim samadhi siddhim samadhi gacchati. Na karmana anarambha naishkarmyam purushoshnude. A person does not gain the mastery over actionlessness. The state of freedom from action is not gained by simply not starting an action. By not getting into the action mode, you are not mastering the actionlessness. Nor does the person attain success, which is liberation, out of mere renunciation, sannyasa. Because an action is difficult to do, you don't start that action, you don't get involved. Because it is difficult and all that, you are not going to get Nishkarmi Siddhi. That is perfection in non-action. Perfection in freedom from action. You are not going to get that. You are not going to be free from action. Simply because you don't do action. Also, you are not going to gain liberation simply by becoming a sannyasi. So what Arjuna thought, sannyasa looks very nice, rosy. Why can't I become a sannyasi? He said, see, if you don't become a sannyasi after the required preparation, simply for namesake, if you are a renunciant, you wearing knocker dress and with a begging bowl and living a renunciant lifestyle, if you take sannyasa like that, just for appearance sake, for simply a lifestyle sannyasa will not give you liberation. There must be sannyasa in your understanding, in your attitude. Added to that, if there is sannyasa, yes. But if there is sannyasa in your attitude, while you are in action, still you are free from action. So what is important is the spirit of sannyasa, not simply the attire or lifestyle of sannyasa. Similarly, in action, simply by getting involved in action, you are not going to be bound. That means, simply by not starting to do the action is not freedom from action. Freedom from action is not simply not doing. I am not talking about that. I am talking about a cognitive freedom while the person is still in action. So the next verse is, then he gives the logic. Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu tishtatya karma krite karyate hyavashah karma sarva prakriti jair gunaihi. Indeed, no one ever remains even for a second without performing action, because everyone here is understood as those people who are under the sway of the three gunas, under the control, those who are driven by the three gunas of sattva, rajas and tamas. Those people who are ajnanis, who are the non-movers, all the non-movers are driven here and there by the gunas. They are helpless when it comes to being driven by the gunas. So nobody is able to be quiet for a second, because they are constantly driven by the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, which is born of prakriti. Karmendriyani sanyamya sa asate manasa smaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyachara sa uchyate. This person who is simply sitting, controlling only the organs of action, means just he wants to sit in one, just does not do physically, but the mind remembering all those sense objects is deluded and is called upon as a person of false conduct. Mithyachara. Does it mean that I should do whatever I feel like? No, it doesn't mean that also. He's telling, simply by sitting, by controlling the sense faculties and not doing physically, but entertaining in the mind. If you don't entertain in the mind also, then it's okay. But I am physically controlling, but mentally I am indulging in the imagination. I have no control over my mind, but my mind is all over the place. Such a person is not a renunciation. Here he is talking about renunciation. The lifestyle of renunciation. You are controlled at the level of organs of action, but the organs of perception are busy with the sense object. Such a person should not take sannyasa. That's what it means. Such a person should remain an active life which will help the person to live the natural course of the mind according to dharma, but with a yogic attitude which will liberate the person over a course of time. So that is the tattparya here. That is the intended meaning here. That is mithyachara means he is doing what he is not supposed to do. He is playing out, acting out a way of life which is not suitable for him. So it is mithyachara. If he is living a life that is not suitable for him, he brings upon destruction upon himself. That is right. Yastvindriyani manasa niyamya rabhate arjuna कर्मेन्द्रियैः कर्मयोगम् असक्तः स विशिष्यते कर्मेन्द्रियैः कर्मयोगम् आसक्तः स विशिष्यते. Whereas Arjuna, the one who controlling the sense organs with the mind remains unattached, takes to the yoga of action, that is takes to the action performed with yoga buddhi with the organs of action is far superior. First he said the person who is controlling the organs of action, but the mind is entertaining the bhokta, the enjoyer, and the doership and enjoyership is busy. The mind is busy in doership and enjoyership, but the organs of actions are controlled. So there is a dichotomy between what he is thinking and what he is doing. In contrast to this person who is a karma yogi, he may be for all to see, for externally this person may be very busy doing a lot of things, but his mind is controlled. He is working constantly in the background with the sense faculties, not allowing the sense faculties to be driven here and there, not entertaining the bhoktutvam, the tendency to enjoy the different objects of the senses, not indulging in an attitude of I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, I am the cause of the result, I am the owner of the result. These kind of egoistic attitudes he does not entertain, which pushes the senses towards enjoyment. So he is the one who has controlled the sense organs with the mind, which means with the mind that is established in the attitude of devotion to Ishvara. When the mind is, buddhi is devoted to Ishvara, which is the yogic buddhi, that automatically brings back the sense faculties from running around. So this person who has controlled the sense faculties with the mind that is devoted to Ishvara, this person who is established in yoga buddhi, remaining unattached, performs a lot of actions which is according to his dharma. Even though the person may be busy, such a person is far superior to this person who is an apparent renunciate but a busy enjoyer in the mind. Then comes the next case. Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajyayo hi karmanaha shariratrapi cha tena prasiddhayeda karmanaha shariryatrapi cha tena prasiddhayeda karmanaha. Do action that is to be done, because action is far superior to non-action. Even the maintenance of your body would be impossible by inaction. If you are Mr. Simply Sitting, this Mr. Simply Sitting does not accomplish anything. For if you are talking simply at the outset, if I compare action with inaction, doing something, not doing anything, if I just take it on face value, doing something is always good because action accomplishes many useful things. Doing the right thing is far superior to not doing anything. I am talking about doing the right thing versus not doing anything. Even your physical body's sustenance is possible only by doing what is required for your survival. Because doing the right thing brings with it some result. It is far superior to inaction. Nothing is accomplished simply by not doing anything. The not doing anything per se by itself has no intrinsic value. That is what he is saying. If you are talking about non-action and action, the intrinsic value is far higher to action than for simple non-action. Then yajnathat karmano anyatra loko ayam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. A person is bound by action only if it is not done as a yajna, as an offering to Ishvara. People are bound. See, you may say action is superior to inaction, but action puts you in bondage. Then what is the point in the superior action? Because it leads to bondage. Then he says, no. Action by itself does not lead to bondage. Only that kind of action which is done with a selfish motive. The action which is not done as a yajna. What is a yajna? The action done for the sake of Ishvara is yajna. When the motive is to serve Ishvara with devotion, that is yajna. Ishvara is there in many forms. We know what is yajna, right? Yajna is there in many forms, but in all the forms of yajna, the motive is Ishvara. Deva yajna, yajna to the devas, offering to the gods, to the divine beings, which is offering to the Lord in the form of the devas. It sustains, it helps to sustain the divine order. It gives energy to the divine order. So there are different orders. The yajna of disposing the plastic waste in a proper way takes care of the environment. Right? So it makes the ecosystem sustainable. Similarly, some people go and pick up all the trash, the plastic trash in the beaches in summer, and then they dispose it off in a proper place. Otherwise, all the plastic goes into the sea, it gets washed away, and then they show one island in Pacific. It's called Adashtakala. We think that we throw one little plastic cover from Bufflet, and what is going to happen? So much is there. That Bufflet cover will go floating into the central Pacific. In the central Pacific, there is an island where the birds are eating all these plastic things. They showed in the internet, I saw one video where they show one central island in the Pacific. The whole island, because of the aqua currents, all the trash from Japan, from Australia, from all the islands in the Pacific and from USA, the western coast of USA, they all get washed into that island because of the currents. And then all these birds, seagulls and everything, they all pick up these things. It looks bright, red color, small thing. It thinks it is something interesting and eats, swallows. And there are these seagulls which are dead there, and the body is disintegrated, full of plastic inside the seagull's body. So many birds die, many animals die. In Rishikesh, many cows die because of eating plastic. So they banned the plastic in Rishikesh. There are shops which are allowing people to bottle the water from a bigger reservoir of mineral water. So you buy one bottle, you keep your own bottle, but you can fill up the bottle and you pay very less. You don't buy bottled water and you don't throw plastic. You don't throw plastic cover, you use cloth cover, paper cover, because there are a lot of cows going around, they eat the plastic. They don't throw plastic cover simply. What we do, we cut the vegetables. Then the vegetable peels are inside a plastic cover. Then in India, the waste disposal is not very good, you just throw like that. The cow smells the vegetable. It thinks the plastic is also part of the vegetable. It starts eating. Plastic goes congests inside and they die. So, there are people who understand this and try to manage this waste. So, this is a selfless action. Any selfless action that contributes to the collective welfare in any manner is a yajna. So, these are all coming under Bhuta Yajna. The yajna for taking care of the ecosystem. Human ecosystem, animal ecosystem, plant ecosystem. So there is Manushya Yajna. To take care of the social order, we have a concept of Pancha Yajna. Pancha Yajna is Deva Yajna. Like we talk about this ecosystem, what I told now. Similarly, there is a divine order. Every natural force that is around us is governed by divine forces called Devas. These Devas are conscious forces that regulate the different natural rhythms. When I do regular invoking of Ishvara as the Devas and give offering. So this is especially relevant for Vedic karma. Those who are doing Vedic karma, they offer to the Deva. We usually do Argyam. We say Aditya Tarpayami, Soham Tarpayami. I offer oblation to sun. I offer oblation to the moon, to the 9 planets, to the different powers that govern the time values. Every day when all these people are doing, what happens? It gives more power and prana to the devas. They in turn take care of the climatic rhythms, and the climatic rhythms are very, what we say as Adi Daivika, the different troubles that might come from the factors that are governed by the divine. God-centered forces like earthquake or tornadoes and all those things. These are all problems. These are all issues that are governed by divine forces. These factors will be harmonious. So the divine ecosystem that takes care of the physical ecosystem, that will be in order. That is Deva Yajna. Then you have Manushya Yajna. Manushya Yajna is, we have a certain practices that takes care of the stability in society. Just imagine if nobody is hungry. Anybody who is hungry, who does not have food, can get food from those who have food. Imagine such a situation where food is not sold. Imagine a situation where nobody sells food, any kind of food. If it is something to take care of your hunger, nobody sells it. They only give it. Who produce it, they eat. They give the raw material to somebody else, somebody buys and distributes it. And in turn they get something else. And those who have food, they will not sell cooked food. Imagine a situation. India was like that. Selling cooked food is considered as gross adharma. Just a few centuries back, India was like this. You walk into a house, knock at the door, you say you are hungry, we are supposed to give you food. Aditi Devo Bhava. Consider Aditi as God. So, we are serving Aditi Yajna, it is called this. Aditi Yajna is Manushya Yajna. Yajna done to the Lord in the form of the human being. Yajna done to the Lord in the form of dogs and cats and pigs and birds. Yajna done to the Lord in the form of the different deities that govern the nature. Yajna done to the Lord in the form of Veda, Rishi Yajna, which is chanting that we did. It's called Brahma Yajna. Veda is Brahman. So when we chant Vedas, we keep the Veda alive. We keep these vibrations of the Veda alive. That is a Yajna. Just for the sake of doing it. So this is all Yajna. So these kind of actions, they don't bind you in samsara. So actions done with a selfless motive, with a devotional attitude to serve Ishvara in many of his forms, which sustains the universal order in so many ways, such an action is not a binding action. Only action which is not done as yajna is binding. So, for this reason, Arjuna, be a person who is free from attachment. May you be a person who is free from this intention to do action for your own welfare. Your own welfare means your own gratification. Don't do things simply because you like it or don't like it. But may you be devoted to action for the sake of that. Tadartam. Tadartam karma kaunteya. Tadartam means what? For the purpose of yajna. May you do action as a yajna. Saha yajnaha praja srištva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasad vishyat dvamesha vostitvat anena prasad vishyat dvamesha vostvishtakama. In the beginning, Praja Srishtva Purovacha Prajapati, the Lord of the creations, in the beginning the Creator God. Having Creator God means Ishvara as the person, the cosmic person or the heavenly Father who creates all the beings. That means who does tapasya, and from his mind he brings forth the creation. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Avaha, Prithvi. From the Prithvi, Aushadhi, means all the plants and all the unicellular organisms, etc. And then from Aushadhi comes Annam, the energy, the food that can nourish life. Then from the Annam comes the individuals and all the jivas, all the beings, the evolution, everything comes. But this does not deny Darwinism. It is like in between creationism and Darwinism. See, it talks about Akashat, Vayu, Agni, Agnerabha, Prithvibhyo, Aushadibhyo, Annam, Annat, Purushaha. Purushaha means an individual. It does not mean only a man. So from food means from the life-giving essence that comes from the plants, involves all these different kinds of beings. Svetaja, Andaja, then you have these, the one which comes from the womb, those beings who come from womb, those which comes from egg, those who come from sweat, means moisture, like these worms which, you see these worms that form in the rice, when you keep the rice in the moist place, in the steaming place, like in Chennai for example, if you keep rice for a long time, after 2 months you will see a lot of worms in the rice because of the moisture and the prana in the rice. So like this you have different beings that come from the essence of life that comes from the plants. So then, from there, then he says, he means there is an interference when it comes to creating the human being, when he creates the rishis from his mind to teach the... So the Prajapati, the creator, having created the human beings along with Yajna, along with the Veda, said, by this Yajna you shall multiply. By this Yajna, may this Yajna be the wish fulfilling cow for you. Let this yajna satisfy all your desires. That means you are all born because you have residual samskaras and desires to fulfill. If a person has no desire to fulfill, by what force the person will be born? So people are born to fulfill the desires. But human being has an inherent problem of slipping into adharma. Because a human being has this self-concept. I am the doer, I am the enjoyer, which is not there for the animals. Because of the heightened ego principle and the buddhi, which is very awake, that can entertain a self-concept, this person can overdo the enjoyment. This person can overdo a dislike. So the Lord, after creating a human being, He gave the yajna. May you live according to the yajna. May you satisfy all your desires, but within the scope given by yajna. Don't compromise the yajna for the sake of satisfying your desire. So may you all multiply and grow and satisfy your desires and be prosperous within the sphere of yajna. So this Prajapati told. Devan. So here the Lord is talking about the greatness of yajna. Devam bhavayata mena te deva bhavayantuvaha parasparam bhavayantah shteha paramavapsyatha. Propitiate the deities with this yajna. May those deities propitiate you. Propitiating one another, you shall gain the highest good. We discussed very much in detail as this spiritual ecosystem and all that. When I was in India in the lecture, we discussed this. Then, Ishthan bhogan hivo deva. Ishtan bhogan hivo deva. Dasyante yajna bhavitah. Tair dattana pradayebhyo yo bhunte stena eva saha. The deities propitiated by yajna will give you desirable objects. One who enjoys these objects given by them without offering to them in return is indeed a thief. Anything that I desire, I don't create by myself. Anything that I want, I get it out of what is already given. If I want to sit in a chair, I don't create a chair out of the blue. I go to the tree, I cut the tree, and I bring the tree, the cut wood, I take care of this, dry the wood in the sun, I use the sun, I use the air, I use the moisture, I use all the tools which are minerals which is coming from earth. So everything that I use to create an object of desire is from what is given. What is given, every aspect of what is given is governed by some devata. So whether I like it or not, it is the devatas who are satisfying my desire. So when the devatas are satisfying my desire, I am also supposed to give them back. That means I have to recognize the presence and the contribution of the devatas. If you propitiate by yajna the devatas will bless you in a way that your life will be smooth. All that you want, which is all that is sensible desire, all your sensible desires will be fulfilled if you are a person of yajna. A person who feeds the hungry never goes hungry. This is the rule. Suppose in the past life you have done a lot of good karma and you have fed a lot of hungry people. In this life, you are in the middle of the forest, you will get food. Middle of the Sahara, somebody will be coming to give you food. You will never go hungry. And if you have robbed a lot of people of their food for the sake of your food, you may be working in a super 5-star hotel, hungry, every day you cannot eat at the right time and you will be having ulcer by the time you are 40. And all the time you will be hungry, but whatever you eat, you will not be satisfied. Because so many stomachs are burned because of your dharma. So these are all karmic laws. Now, how by propitiating the deities you will attain moksha, the highest good, over a period of time, by developing the required maturity, I will develop viveka and then I will look for knowledge, purity of mind, sattva, etc. A person who is devoted to the ethical satisfying of the desires, accompanied by selfless actions that help others to satisfy their desires also, who is conscious to satisfy one's desire in a sustainable manner, both materially and spiritually, such a person becomes a mature person. Such a person will find so many situations where that person cannot afford to do something because he or she likes it. So what they will do at the time? When it is against the spirit of yajna, I cannot do. What to do? I will develop shamadama. I will develop sense control and mind control. I will know how to handle my mind. At the same time, I will do in the right way and satisfy the desire. So I will not be frustrated. So such a person becomes a mature person over a period of time. And then that person, such a mature person develops viveka. Such a person with viveka is eligible for knowledge, which is moksha. So that like that, indirectly. Because a lot of karmakanda people will translate this. The ritualistic people will translate this. See, he said you will attain moksha by yajna. So you should do yajna, otherwise you will not attain moksha. So yajna doesn't give you moksha. Directly leads you to moksha by giving you the required maturity. And then yajnashishtashinah santo muchyante sarvakilbhishaihi bhunjate te tvadham papa ye pachyantyatmakaranad yajnashishtashinah santo muchyante sarvakilbhishaihi bhunjate te tvadham papa ye pachantyatmakaranad. Those who eat, having first offered the food to the Lord, are released from impurity. Those who take the food which is the prasadam of yajna. Now I am not doing any, let us take an example of a person who is not able to do any very sophisticated puja or something, but has a principle. It is the Lord who is the fire of hunger in every person who is hungry. So before eating, I should feed somebody who is hungry. Just for the sake of satisfying the hunger of a person, I will take care of a person who is hungry, then I will eat. So there used to be people in India who will not have food unless they have fed a sadhu. We have heard about saints. So there were Shaivite saints who were not eating. So one day they did not have any sadhu, so they will go to the road and look after they cook the food offered to the Lord, puja and everything. They will go to the road and look. Is there anybody who is hungry, who wants food? They will go and shout till the street end, see if anybody is there. So anybody is hungry, they can go and eat and come. Unless somebody has come to eat, they will feel very depressed. Today we could not feed anybody. So now let us take a person who will eat only after taking care of the hunger of somebody, with an attitude that the one I am feeding is Ishvara in the form of this person. Then the food he eats after that is a yajna prasada. It's a prasadam of yajna. It is the result of yajna. It is the one that is left over from yajna. There are so many kinds of yajna. The food that I will eat after at least one of dirghash. The food that I will eat after at least one kind of yajna, we can translate like that. Since we all know how to do puja, may you cook the food, offer to the Lord and then eat. Such a person is released from impurities. What are the impurities? Desire to satisfy your physical urges, which has its root in ajnana, ignorance, which leads to the body attachment, which leads to the likes and dislikes. That is the impurity, raga, dveshadi. So when we are driven by desire and I eat only for one's own sake, so the person who is cooking for one's own sake I cook and eat. I earn this food. It's my money, my food, my rice. I went to the supermarket and got this money. So I got this food. So I will cook and I eat. Why should I go and eat for somebody? What nonsense is this? I have already paid the tax. So I am going to eat. This is my food. So one who cooks and eats for one's own sake is driven by the desire to enjoy. So the person is strengthening the impurities. Don't think the Lord is up in the heaven waiting for offerings. Whoever doesn't give offering, he sends them one courier of negative karma. It's not like that. It means you are strengthening your own pattern of attachment if you cook for yourself. But if you cook for the sake of yajna, today for example, we went to the supermarket to buy and we bought some pear. So in that pear, I said, it's nice pear. We can eat this pear. Then I hit my head. I said, no, it's good for anything. So you buy the pear and think it is for anything. First, you don't think you are going to eat the pear. You have to check that attitude. Is it something very nice, uncooked, which is fit for offering? Suppose if you buy buffet, you cannot offer. So it's nice buffet, maybe we can all eat together. Like that you can think. So what can be offered at the altar? If you buy that, buy with an attitude that you are buying for the Lord. And after offering, we can eat. So when you start taking care of this mind like this, right from the time you look at the apple in the supermarket, then I am the enjoyer vritti. I am the enjoyer vasana comes down. It looks like a very simple, funny thing. But if you do this diligently every time, you will see that compulsion to enjoy will not be there. So, like that, when a person does consume after yajna, so the mind goes through a purification process. So the person is released from impurities, from the papa. But a person who is cooking for oneself is eating sin. There are two things here. One, he is reinforcing the pattern of indulgence. So this is the rational explanation. Again, that person is also not neutralizing the negative karma involved in procuring the food. Any kind of food that you procure, a nice box full of capsule, they have to employ people to pluck the capsule. Those people who are plucking the capsule, they don't want to pluck the capsule. They also want to sit in a nice sofa and they eat the capsule, watching TV. But are they able to do that? They are driven by poverty. So they go from here to Barcelona to pluck capsule. Then the capsule comes here. Then we eat that. For our own sake, all the negative karma that is in the capsule, exploitation, body shopping and everything, and the frustration of the people who pluck the capsule, and all these negative karma which is associated, the economy and the local strawberry producers cursing the Spain guys because the Spain strawberries sold here and not the Romanian strawberry. All this negative karma comes in your plate of strawberry. If you buy and eat only for yourself. Like that, everything is fraught with negative karma because everything has in its trail the finished product. Any finished product has in its trail a lot of suffering of so many beings, knowingly and unknowingly. How to neutralize that? When you offer to Ishvara, all that negative karma gets neutralized. Then the whole food becomes holy. So that nourishes your buddhi in a way that brings with it a lot of blessings and a lot of positive energy with it, which takes care of your subtle body in a way that it keeps it pure. So this is taken with Shraddha. This is not susceptible to logic. This is only based on the karma and the result of karma and the devas and the knowledge of the subtle world which we know from the Veda. Okay. That is why in the Veda we have an injunction. Deva Pitrukaryam Pramaditavyam Matru Devo Bhava Pitrudevo Bhava Acharya Devo Bhava Atiti Devo Bhava. Consider the guest to be God. It is there in Taittiriya Upanishad, Shruti. We have all this in the Shruti also. That is why this aspect is taken with Shraddha. Okay, then Anna Bhavanti Bhutani Parjanyadanna Sambhavaha. How come? No, this yajna purifies, the logic comes. Anna Bhavanti Bhutani Parjanyadanna Sambhavaha Yajna Bhavanti Parjanyo Yajna Karma Samudbhavaha. The living beings are born of food. Food is born of the rain. Rain that comes in the right time to nourish the crops is born of yajna. The result of yajna, which is good karma, result of good karma, punya. And yajna is born of action. The right action, either in the form of the rituals or in the form of promoting dharma, it creates an unseen result. That unseen result is yajna, which is born of the right action. That yajna nourishes the devas and takes care of the rain and all the natural phenomena that supports life. Okay. So this earth that we see is the product of yajna. Remember I told you. The certainty with which, the probability with which you can have an earth in this galaxy is 1 in a billion. 1 by 10 with so many zeros. That is the probability of having an earth. And in this earth, to have a hospitable area which sustains life, can you go and live in the bottom of Antarctica? You cannot. So see that. So there is a lot of yajna that has gone into this sustainable environment for life. So the devas take the yajna only takes care of sustainable environment that nourishes life. So that is the point here. May you understand karma. Karma brahmodbhavam viddhi. Brahmakshara samudbhavam. Tasmat sarvagatam brahma nityam yajne pratishthitam. May you understand that ritualistic prayerful action to be born of the Veda, and the Veda to be born of the imperishable Ishvara. Therefore, all the all-pervasive Brahman, the Veda, who is in the form of Veda, abides always in Yajna. Yajna is born of Veda. Veda is born of Brahman. Veda is considered as the breathing of Brahman. Ishvara's breath is Veda. If Ishvara is the person, Veda is his breath. If you visualize Ishvara as a person, he is breathing. Veda is his breath. The breath sustains the person. Because the person is there, the breath is there. Both are indicative of each other. So how Ishvara will celebrate his birthday? By blowing the candle. How Ishvara will blow? Through the Veda. That is why whenever any form of Ishvara's birthday is celebrated, we chant some Veda. So suppose if it is Vishnu's birthday, we say Narayana Vidmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Vishnu Prachodayad. Then all Vishnu Murmukam Virya Prabhojamya. All this is Veda, which is the breath of Vishnu. So by chanting the Veda, you propitiate Ishvara. So Veda, and so what he says is Yajna. This Veda always abides in Yajna. It is through the Yajnas that I sustain the Veda. In Yajna there is the power of Veda. Not only in the Vedic Yajna, also in our common sense based Yajna, also the power of Veda is there. Because in the form of values. Veda is unseen. It is heard. Now the power behind the Veda is all pervading. It is everywhere. Wherever people are devoted to Dharma, there is Veda. Either in a visible format or invisible format. Those people who are taking care of hungry people and giving them food, Taittiriya Upanishad, Atiti Devo Bhava is there in an unexpressed format. But in India, you say Atiti Devo Bhava and take care of your guest. It is there in the expressed format and the unexpressed format. That is the difference. Okay. So how will you understand Karma Brahmodbhavam Viddhi? May you know that Karma is born of Brahman. How? Vedic Karma is born. How do you know that? Through the Veda only. So here, Shraddha is insisted. Shraddha, that Veda is a valid means of knowledge, is insisted in this verse. Next. Evam pravartikam chakram nanuvartyati haryaha nanuvartayati haryaha aghayurindriya ramo mogham partha sajivati. A person who does not follow here in this life this cosmic wheel that is already set in motion in this manner and lives in sin given only to the pleasures of the senses lives wastefully, Partha. This person who is living only for self-gratification is like a violin gone off the pitch in an orchestra. He's making a mess in the orchestra. Like that. This cosmic wheel is an interdependable reality. It is an interdependent functional organism. What they say as Gaia in Greece. So this cosmic organism, this wheel of life, it's interdependent. All the spokes are needed. Every part of it is needed. It is a cycle of life. This is how action born yajna, punya, that takes care of the devatas who take care of the nature that takes care of the person who takes care of the action, the yajna, this cycle. So this cycle should be respected. May you respect the cosmic ecosystem, the subtle ecosystem that drives your visible ecosystem. So may you be devoted to it. A person who is lazy and the person who would not respect this cosmic wheel and is only devoted to self-gratification of the senses, is living wastefully and lives in sin, is accumulating negative karma. Yastvatmaradirev syadatma triptascha manavah atmanyevacha santushtas tasya karyam na vidyate. Then you may say, what about this Mr. Monk sitting here? This monk is not doing anything. People are giving him food. He is eating and simply sitting in the name of contemplation. What about this guy? Is he not living in sin? Is the explanation. Next verse. Whereas, for the person who is delighted in the self, who is satisfied with the self, contented in the self alone, for that person, there is nothing to be done. So, this does not apply to the one who is contented in the self and lives in the self alone without any desire. That person is not contributing to the cosmic noise. It is like a guy who has stopped playing his violin. He does not disturb the orchestra. It is not only that. A person who is abiding in the self is like Krishna's flute. He is like a flute in which Krishna can play. It means he is an instrument in the hand of the Lord. It's that mind that is backed by a buddhi that is endowed with self-knowledge. Such a mind is an instrument in the hands of the Lord. He is a vehicle of grace. So wherever he walks, he brings divine grace. It's like you are in touch with Ishvara. So these rules don't apply for that person because that person contributes without contributing, which you may not understand. So that's a person who is also contributing, but it's in a different way. That person has nothing to accomplish. He lives in a non-competitive manner. He is not simply a consumer. His very presence is a delight. So that person has nothing to do. Naiva tasya कृतेनार्थो न कृतेनेह कश्चन न चास्त्य सर्वभूतेषु कश्चिदर्थव्यपाश्रयः. For that person who is completely contented in the self and revels in the self, there is indeed no purpose here in this world. There is indeed no purpose here in this world for doing or not doing. Here is the punch. This person has no need to do or not to do. He is neither addicted to action nor he is addicted to inaction. If something needs to be done, he has no problem doing. Also, here it is talking about two kinds of things. If I do what is not to be done, there is a problem. If I don't do what needs to be done, then also is a problem. A Brahmana who is not doing yajna, he is having the problem of akarma, not doing what is to be done. So that brings you certain sin. It's like not brushing your teeth brings plague. And eating sweet, doing what you are not supposed to do. If I eat sweet, I am supposed to brush my teeth. Not only I don't brush my teeth, I eat a sweet. That compounds the problem. Doing what is not healthy, what is not okay, brings trouble. Not doing what is supposed to be done brings trouble. So this person he has no need to do anything or not to do anything. It can be understood in two ways. He has no need to do, he has no duties, and because he has no purpose for doing or not doing. He has no enjoyment simply because he is not doing anything. He is not reaping the result of non-action, nor is he reaping the result of inappropriate action. This is one meaning. Another meaning is he is not attached to doing something because he is not running behind something. So he doesn't feel obliged to do anything, and he need not do anything. He is not obliged to do anything. Nor is he attached to the state of enjoying laziness, which is non-action. So he has no purpose in not doing. If something needs to be done, I don't want to do this. I am a sannyasi, I should not do this. I don't want to do this. If it has to be done, he will do. But it need not be done, it's another story. So this person has no attachment to that state of non-doing also. Okay? Nor does such a person depend on any being for any object whatsoever. He does not depend upon anything means he does not depend upon actively. What Shankaracharya tells in his commentary, such a person does not bother whether he is alive or dead also. Not bothered about being alive also. Okay, he goes begs, but there are rules. For a Paramahamsa sannyasi, you are supposed to beg only in 3 houses. After the 3 houses, nobody gives you food, you are supposed to go and sit and not beg anymore. This is rule. In each house, you are supposed to ask only 3 times. Bhavati Viksham Dehe, Bhavati Viksham Dehe, Bhavati Viksham Dehe. Please give me, oh, mother of the house, give me food. 3 times. Nobody comes, walk. Next house. Next house. 3 houses, no food. Go and sit back in your outside the village, drink water and keep quiet. Rules for Paramahamsa. You don't go and keep on begging. You don't beg for money. A lot of things are there. So, this person has nothing. No? Body is alive. Ishvara, Prarabdha will take care of this body. The body has to be alive, it will be alive. Why should I bother? That is a level of indifference to the worldly phenomena. So, for such a person, there is no obligation whatsoever. He is not dependent on anything or anybody. Therefore, Tasmadasaktah satatam karyam karma samachara asakto hyacharan karma paramapnoti purushaha. Therefore, always perform well the action that is to be done without attachment, because by performing action without attachment, a person attains the highest, which is moksha. By performing action without attachment, by itself you will not attain. Performing action without attachment, a person gains the maturity, which eventually leads to moksha, which is knowledge. Like indirectly. Karmanyeva hi samsiddhim astitha janakadayah lokasangraha mevapi sampashyan kartumarghasi. Indeed, by action alone, Janaka and the others gained liberation. Also, by merely seeing the desirability of protecting the people from falling into unbecoming ways, you ought to perform action. Now, the different kings who were enlightened people, those kings who ruled the world, like Janaka, etc., Ikshvaku, Janaka, to whom also the knowledge was revealed before, those people attained perfection of intention, perfection of the mind. Eventually they attained knowledge. So in 2 ways. If they already had knowledge, they did action for the welfare of everybody. If you think that they did not have knowledge, they eventually gained the qualification for attaining knowledge by performing action. Okay. So, merely seeing the desirability to protecting the people from falling into unbecoming ways, you ought to perform action. While, how come the action done by such a worthy, the great person helps people not to go into adharma? Yadyadacharati shreshtas tattadeveta rojanaha sa yat pramanam kurute lokastadanuvartate. Whatsoever an important person does, that alone the other people do. By example, whatever that person sets as proper, the world of the common people follow that by inspiration. So an important person, especially here like Arjuna, is supposed to do. Each person is important in a smaller circle or a bigger circle. If you are a mother, your child looks up to you. If you are a little kindergarten teacher, all the 30 kids in the class look up to you. The kindergarten teacher is, let us say, I don't know about an example here. In India, for example, if a kindergarten teacher steps on a book, she touches the books and does like this and put the book back. Now, you can instruct the kids to do. But the kindergarten teacher, suppose it's enlightened, okay? Book, I am the book book is me, everything is Brahman, I am Brahman. You may not be aware of, doesn't care for any rules. The kid will come and ask, but you are not doing, why should I do? Immediately it will point out. So even though the person may have knowledge, they do what is to be done if they are in a responsible position. A Shankaracharya, till he is the head, the pontiff of that ashrama, he will do all the rituals. Till he hands over the control to the next Shankaracharya. After he hands over the control to the next Shankaracharya, he will retire. He will not do anything. He will be simply sitting, meditating. No problem. He can even behave, he will be like a madman, running around in samadhi, in the fits of devotion. Depends on the person. But the same person was also enlightened before he took retirement. Till that time, everything will be on the dot, in perfect ritualistic discipline, as though he is addicted to action. But the moment he is retired, everything is gone. They all set an example. So, a person who is, everybody must understand what is the circle of responsibility, and within the circle of responsibility, they have to set an example, because within that circle of responsibility, they become an inspiration, positive or negative, to the other people. So it is very important to follow the rules. So whatsoever an important person does, that alone the other people do. Whatever the person sets as proper, the world of people follow that. So to help the people be in dharma, these people like Janaka, etc., performed action. Arjuna, he gives his own example as Ishvara. Nami partasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchina nanavaptam avaptavyam varta evacha karmani. Arjuna, for me, there is nothing to be done in the three worlds. Three worlds means waking, dream and sleep. Bhuloka, Bhurloka, Swarloka, like that. There is nothing to be gained by me which is not yet gained. Because Ishvara is Nitya, Buddha, Shuddha, Buddha, Swabhavaha. Ishvara is of the nature of eternally pure, free, unhindered, complete, pure, liberated, all-knowing, all-powerful, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, eternally, and also always free. He is liberated. Also, it's like a jnani, that Ishvara is also ever free from the blemishes of karma and the klesha and the results of karma and all that. So, Ishvara is free from all the likes and dislikes and all the defects. Being free from all these defects, being complete, not needing anything from anything in the three worlds, Ishvara is always devoted to action. Yet I remain engaged in action. I don't need anything, but I am engaged in action. Why? I should not, if Ishvara ever does not engage in action, should I not ever engage myself in action without being lazy, Arjuna? If Ishvara were not to engage in action without being lazy, people would follow my example in every way. If Ishvara wants to become lazy and doesn't do his job, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam sujamyaham. Next chapter comes. Wherever dharma is declining, I incarnate myself with the power of my maya to restore dharma. So we are all wondering, what is all these adharmas God is seeing? What is this God doing up in the heaven? Why can't he come and take care of this adharma? We say no. Like this, a lot of people continuously pray. There will be an intervention. That is why prayer, avatar, is a result of prayer. Any prayer, Lord has to answer the prayer. If somebody is doing a lot of sincere prayer, Lord has to scratch his head. What to do? This fellow is praying so much, just do something. So if all these people are praying for, for example, there is a lot of corruption in Romania. Romania, Dharma is not working. All the Romanians come together and pray. For the sake of re-establishing Dharma in Romania, we pray and then start praying. Then you will see some extraordinary personality will come from nowhere and then do something. It is a normal. But it is very extraordinary adharma. You cannot even walk on the road. The Lord will incarnate as a special person endowed with special powers, and that person will turn around the whole system and restore the order back, and the show will go on for some more time. Like this. So whenever dharma is down, Lord incarnates. So he does a job. And creation, sustenance, destruction, veiling, revealing. So whoever is doing whatever punya I do in this life, in the next life, all the punya must be delivered to you there, wherever you are born. The Lord's cosmic order, He sustains a cosmic order which can deliver the result of action. Karma pala data. So all this job the Lord does for the welfare of everybody and also to live up to His image of God. Means He doesn't have an image problem. He says giving us an example for inspiration. Here in this context, we should not overstretch the example. The Lord gives His own example because Ishvara as the ultimate being, also Ishvara as the avatar Krishna. You can take in two ways. In spite of not having anything to do, the Lord does His job in keeping with the status as Ishvara. Because when the Lord does His job properly, people would follow the same thing. When, let us say for a Christian, when Jesus said, "Oh Lord, forgive them for they know not what they are doing, sitting in the cross," all the people are inspired to forgive the person who is harming them. So He is inspiring forgiveness. The equivalent is in our Shastra, it is the Lord who is taking care of all the beings and keeping the cosmic order. When He doesn't have to do that, that becomes an inspiration for us also to live according to Dharma. See, He says, if I were not to perform action, Uchide yurime loka na kuryam karma chedaham sankarasya cha karta syam upahanyamima prajaha. If I were not to perform action, these people would perish. I would be the author of confusion in the society and I would destroy these beings. This cosmic order has to be kept according to the law of karma. If the Lord takes His mind off, everything will be thrown into randomness. The order that is sustained amidst this randomness is kept together by the power of the Lord as Vishnu, the sustainer. If He is not doing His job, the order would collapse. So, it will destroy all the beings. So, I have to do it. Saktaha karmanya vidvamso yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat vidvams tatha saktas chikirshur lokasangraham. Bharata, Arjuna, just as the unwise people, those who are under the power of ignorance, who are attached to the results of action, perform action, in the same way, the wise person also performs action. Just like the ignorant people are performing action, those who are attached to the result of action performs action. In the same way, the wise person also performs action, but without attachment, desirous of doing that which is for the protection of the people. A person who is wise, he just plays his role because the role has to be played without attachment to the result. But a person who is ignorant not only plays the role because he is attached to the result that comes from playing the role. The motivation is the result for an ignorant person, but for a wise person, the motivation is the welfare of the people. That is right. Na buddhi bhedam janayet ajnanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidvan yukta chamacharan. If you consider yourself to be the enlightened, that means even those people who know the self, who are enlightened, should not create any disturbance in the understanding of the ignorant people who are attached to the results of action. The wise person, being oneself established in the knowledge, oneself performing all the actions very well, should encourage the ignorant people to perform all their actions. The wise person, when he sees a person devoted to action because of attachment to the result, don't create conflict in their mind. Don't tell them everything is sorrow, all your result is sorrow, everything is temporary. A person is getting married, you go to the marriage, you give them, your wife is temporary, she is going to become old and die. Before even you realize, you are going to become old and die before even you realize, all this life is temporary, marriage is nothing but sorrow. Don't go and tell that there. Encourage the person to live the married life according to their mama. Encourage dharma there. Don't go and show your vairagya there. When the person asks you before marriage, you can say, hey, marriage is trouble. Why can't you think a little bit? Why don't you stop getting married and all this, getting into world? Why don't you devote yourself to study? And check the person's vairagya. No, I need to be married, I feel all alone and all that. When the desire is very strong, don't disturb the faith. Don't create conflict. Then what will happen? The person who is not qualified, who is completely under the sway of ajnana and likes and dislikes, if you start giving them enlightenment discourse, that person will not get enlightened, but that person will get confused and will not do what he is supposed to do. So instead of enlightenment, so they will go into a pseudo-spiritual trip, which is what is happening today to the most people. I discussed this in a very, very elaborate manner, and I said this is one of the central problems of Buddhism. Buddhism wants to market enlightenment. This marketing enlightenment is not there in our Shastra. In the Vedic Dharma, enlightenment and all this Vairagya talk is only for the person who is asking for it. For the rest of the people, there is only Dharma talk. Perform your Dharma, do yajna, do dana, do tapasya. Do yajna, do dana, do tapasya, and satisfy all your desires. Please go ahead, but this is the rules. Take care of the rules when you are satisfied. It's very good. May you have health, may you have a lot of cattle, may you have a lot of wealth, may you have a lot of money, may you have many children, may you have a lot of prosperity, may you live prosperously for 100 years. It is a blessing they give when you do that. That does not mean may you be stuck in the desires, may you be born again and again and suffer. That is not what it means. It means may you live for a long time according to the rules and the regulations, respecting the ethics, respecting the principle of yajna, may you follow. That is right. So should not. So this person also, yes, it's very good, very good. We should do this. And then this person also, suppose enlightened person goes, people are doing some social work, cleaning the park. This person should also take part and do. You see a lot of people who are doing also seva. For example, Dayananda Saraswati, he is very busy in a project called Aim for Seva. All India Movement for Service. So he is creating a lot of collective will to make resources available to rehabilitate and help these tribal people live a sustainable life. But when Dayananda's Aim for Seva goes to a place, they restore the native culture of the place. You don't convert them to Christianity and make them alien from their own culture and make them rebel against India. So he sees this problem. Wherever there is a hill, wherever there is a tribe, this fellow is going with a cross. And these people are getting diverged from the native culture, they are getting confused. The dharma of the place is getting destroyed, what to do. So let us end. And also, people need something to do. He's been teaching Vedanta. How many people understand? A few people here and there, 10 people out of 100, they understand. Rest of the people, what to do? They have to do some kind of seva, some service to purify themselves. You have to pull in all the resources for collective welfare. So when people become part of a project that is meant for collective welfare, then that is why all the masters, you take any ashram, any great master, he promotes a lot of charitable work. Because through this charitable work, people will learn to devote themselves to the spirit of yajna. And he himself will participate. He himself will go and give the clothes. He himself will go and give a lecture about education, play with the kids. Take the kids in his car and go around. He's all the time spending time with the kids, cracking jokes. All these tribal children who have nothing to eat, all this. And they will spend time with them. They will spend time in the places where they are serving people. Encourage people to buy. For example, in India, before the independence, this Gandhi started this Khadi movement. Okay? So this Khadi, people should manufacture their own cloth. It was very relevant in the time when it was started. And all the Shankaracharyas were wearing silk robes. Their cloth was made of silk and very sophisticated cloth because it helps to preserve the vibration. But some Shankaracharyas did not wear silk, but people, whatever people give, they always come and give the best. Shankaracharya is the pontiff. You see the episcopal wearing a golden crown and all that. So a lot of gold. So like this they will give the golden border and the dhoti and all that. And Shankaracharya saw this Khadi movement. He said, this is very good. Where people are using their own clothes. He said, from today onwards, I will wear only Khadi. So his ochre robe that he was wearing, that day till he died, he wore only Khadi. So when Shankaracharya takes to Khadi, all his devotees, thousands and thousands of people will take only to Khadi. Then the local economy prospers. It becomes a self-sustainable economy. He contributes to the self-sustaining economy, which is also ahimsa. Khadi is ahimsa. And he encouraged people to get rid of their mill clothes, these factory-made clothes which are imported by the British, which was powering the British economy. So the Britishers were ruling India, taking raw materials from us, making factory-made clothes and selling it back to us, and draining the economy. So Khadi cut the economic thread of the British. So the British were dead against Khadi because it was killing all their clothing. India was a huge market, 300 million people. It's not an easy market, it's a very big market. So each one stops wearing dhoti, that cloth that comes from England. What happens to British production? You should see. So, and all the local cotton is procured by the people who are making khadi. So the raw material comes down. So that really cuts the lifeline of the British. So this putting an end to this exploitation, Shankaracharya himself participated in that. And he says, all you people, when you go to Rameshwaram to take the holy bath, leave your old factory-made British clothes into the sea and wear khadi. Offer it back to the sea. Don't just leave it in the sea because you are taking a holy bath. Go with that thing, leave it to the sea, and then wear khadi and that. Start converting into khadi. And he himself did first and made everybody do. So the wise person himself performing all the necessary actions must encourage the people to do righteous action. Then comes the next. Action performed in various ways impelled by the gunas of the Prakriti, the body, mind and the senses, deluded by the I notion, one thinks I am the doer. Prakritir kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasaha ahankara vinodhatma kartaham iti manyate. The person who is deluded by the idea that I am, of the me, and deluded by the three gunas, the actions are impelled by the gunas of the nature. You are not doing. Things act on things. But this ignorant person thinks I am doing. Then comes the next one. Whereas Arjuna, the knower of the truth of the qualities and the actions is not bound. That person knows that gunas express themselves in gunas. The world, see, the body, mind and sense complex. See, if I am a doer, when there is action being done, organs of action are born of the three gunas of the Prakriti and the Panchabhutas. Right? Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, and the five elements. That is what is made of Prakriti. Is acting on external things which are also made of the gunas. If I am enjoying the external things which are made of the gunas, the Prakriti, is acting on my mind body complex which is also made of the gunas and the Prakriti. While I am the consciousness which is not the body and the mind, I am not touched. And the one who understands this, Tattvavittu Mahabaho, Gunakarma Vibhagayo, Guna Guneshu Vartanta, Iti Matva Na Sajjate. Na Sajjate means he is not bound. By understanding that gunas act on the gunas, this person is not bound. Prakriter Gunasammudaha Sajjante Gunakarmasu Tana Kritsnavido Mandan Kritsna Vinna Vichalaye. Mandan Kritsna Vinna Vichalaye. Those who are deluded by the different modifications of nature, Prakriti, become bound in terms of the body, mind, sense complex, the gunas and the actions. Those who are deluded by Prakriti become bound with the gunas and the actions. Those who know very well the self should not disturb those who do not know the self, who are not discriminated, which we discussed now. Mai sarvani karmani sanyas syad yatmachetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasva vigatajvaraha. Renouncing all the actions unto me. Mai sarvani karmani sanyasyad. Renouncing all the actions to me. With a mind that is discriminating means actions and the result. I am doing for the sake of. Unto me means what? Either I understand that all the gunas and everything is all part of Ishvara. I understand everything is Ishvara and I am relaxed in that. I renounce the sense of doership. If I don't if I don't understand, then I renounce with a devotional attitude. I do this for the sake of Ishvara. The result of this action belongs to Ishvara. For one who does not know yogic attitude of devotion, the one who knows the jnana itself, you are renouncing. You understand everything is Ishvara, everything is guna, sustained by Ishvara. I am not doing anything. With a mind that is discriminating, with viveka, devoid of expectations with reference to the future. That is, don't be attached overtly to the results of action and without any sense of mindness. I am the doer, I am the owner of the result, I am responsible for the result, I am the one controlling the result, etc. Without any of this and without any anger or frustration, what Vigata Jwaraha means like a fever. Without any feverish temperament, without any anxiety or without any frustration, etc. Just fight. In the middle of the war, not to have frustration and anxiety. You are supposed to fight. You are doing so. That means what? On your toes, all the time there is a situation. Oh my God, I should not get hurt. See, I should not get hurt as a carefulness is different. What will happen if I get hurt? What will happen if I get hurt? That is different. Oh my God, I am killing so many people. That's not your problem. Of course, you are supposed to fight and people will get killed. People are going to be killed anyway. See, they are all dead anyway. He says in the second chapter, all of them are already gone. You see them, they are all dead. So don't worry, just do your job. You are only here when he is showing in the cosmic vision. He shows Arjuna. He sees all these people just entering into the mouth of the Lord at death. The Lord has the destructive power. People are entering into his mouth and they are getting crushed in the teeth of the Lord. That means what? The destiny is driving them towards the death. You are only an instrument in the hands of these cosmic forces. You just do your job. Don't worry about it. People will just die. Don't worry. That is the idea. So without any of this anxiety, understanding what is what, just fight. That means do your action that is supposed to be done. Then next. Yeme matamidam nityam anustishyanti manavaha shraddhavanto anasuyanto munchante tevi karmabhi. Those people who constantly follow this teaching of mine, full of faith, without finding fault with the teaching or the teacher, with the shraddha, they too are free from the hold of the karma phalas, from the result of karma. They gain moksha. So those who follow this teaching without returning with shraddha, without asking unhealthy questions and without questioning the validity of the teaching. If you don't question the validity of the teaching, but if you ask a question to understand what the teaching is, that is okay. But those who follow this teaching of mine, they will also be liberated from the hold of the karma. Ye tvetadabhyasuyanto nanatishtanti me matam sarvajnana vimudham stan vidhi nashtana chetasaha. Those people who are critical of this teaching without any proper reason and do not follow my vision, who are deluded in all the realms of knowledge and devoid of discrimination, know them as lost. They are lost. They are lost into their own mind. They are lost into the forces of ignorance. So it's not like a curse, not with my teaching. I am the Lord. I am teaching. You are supposed to follow. You don't follow my commandment, you will be thrown in hell. It is not that. Probably this is what was the teaching, and it got twisted by these barbaric people, When you give this teaching to a barbaric person, that is why they say, Bhagavad Gita, don't give this supreme secret should not be given to the unworthy. They say. So the unworthy people should not be taught this directly. They should be given slowly, in spoon feeding. If you give suddenly the whole Bhagavad Gita and all this wisdom, they cannot take. So probably it was the teaching also, and because it was given to barbarians, they converted into hell, heaven, commandment, and jealous God and all that. It gets corrupted. Bhagavad Gita can get corrupted. What about other things? In India, it can get corrupted. So he says, you should not take it like a commandment. It is not a curse or something. He is just presenting the fact. See, this is knowledge. You better respect this knowledge for your own welfare. If you don't respect this, you will have the consequences of your own attachment. God is not throwing you into anything. This is how it should be understood. That means who are blindly opposed to this. What is the use of action without attachment? I am here to earn heaven. I am here to become popular. How can I? No, come on, it gives you a high. Popularity gives you a high. Prosperity gives you a high. You should write that BMW and see, man. What? No attachment. How can I be not attached to this Yamaha R1? When you ask like that, what does Krishna know about Yamaha R1? When he was there were all these 5 horses. Now my Yamaha has 95 horses inside the engine. What Krishna knows about the thrill of the acceleration? I may say. But he said, see, teaching has something in it. It is not about, when your mind is under the sway of the desire, you may question everything. But here he gives a warning. Wait, don't question the teaching or its validity. When something is too challenging for you, wait a second, give the benefit of doubt to the teaching and follow. If you don't do that, you will be lost in the force of the desire of your own mind and you will be lost from truth for an unimaginably long time. So, respect the teaching. Because it is a fact. You may not see what we are talking about, but it is all true. Please have Shraddha and follow. That's what he is saying. Sadrisham cheshtade swasyaha prakrite jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Even the wise person is acting sometimes in keeping with his or her own nature. Even a person may be wise. If the person has to be active, the activity comes based on the programming, based on one's own programmed nature. If that is true even for the wise people, what to talk of those who are not wise, who are driven by ajnana and attachment and aversion? All the beings follow their own nature of what use is control. It means, what is the use of trying to control them either by me, whatever I am telling them what to do, or by this wise person going and marketing enlightenment. What is the use of trying to control them? You cannot control them. So let the life go on. Just keep telling them. It is a fact that there is a certain level of helplessness when it comes to the mind and the sense faculties which are acting. We have to recognize the helplessness. This does not mean you become a victim of self-pity, telling, oh, my mind and body is all acting according to its own nature. I cannot control myself. That is not the reason. Come to the next verse. There are longing and aversion potential in every sense object. May one not come under the spell of these two, because they are one's enemies. When it comes to another person, don't go around trying to control phenomena. Don't be bothered about controlling the phenomena, but always be devoted to checking your sense cravings inside. Shift the attention elsewhere. That is what Sri Krishna is saying. So, Indriyasteindriyasyarthe ragadvesho vyavasthitau tayorna vishama gachetau hyasya paripathinau tayorna vashama gachetau hyasya paripanthitau. There are the longing and aversion, likes and dislikes, potential in every object. Because every object is capable of exciting this like and dislike pattern in your head. It is natural. So, you have to take that extra measure not to come under that spell. Because these likes and dislikes are one's enemies. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushthithat swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. Better is one's own imperfectly performed dharma than the well-performed dharma of another person. Death in one's own dharma is better. The dharma of another is fraught with fear, which we discussed very much. Because another's work may look very appealing, a person is doing something very well. Something kids always have this problem. Don't be childish, that's what he said. The mature person doesn't get carried away like a child. So when you see somebody playing guitar, go to a camp, there's this guy who is playing guitar in the fire and everybody's around and wow, he's a musician. Wow, I should also learn guitar. This person does not have any music sense. But this person is very good in sports. So he should try to excel in sports. If you are studying in school, for example, during sports day, all the sports guys are popular. In culturals, all the music guys, the dramatics guys are popular. But this dramatic guy, who is very good in piano, let us say, and this music and dramatic guy, who is very good in piano, very good in singing and acting, this person cannot do any sports, he is very fat, he cannot run anything. Sports day comes, he is a nobody. I should become good in sports. And starts, what is this? I am like a joker in the stage. I should become a sports day. All these girls are going behind the sports bars. It will not work. So each one should understand one's own strengths and weaknesses and be devoted to one's own position in the society, which decides what is my dharma. Even though another's dharma may look, sometimes you may be good in something. Like for example, if I am a policeman, I would do a much better job than all these policemen. But is it my dharma to be a policeman? That one has to ask for. The policeman on the street may not do his job well. I may do the policeman job much better than him, but I cannot become a policeman because my dharma is not to be a policeman. I may be struggling a lot to be a teacher, but I have to do this because even one's own dharma which is done imperfectly, it is better than somebody's dharma which is performed much better than the other person itself. Even though if that is the case, do your own dharma. Even though you may be imperfect in your dharma, you should perfect your own dharma. That is what he said. Why? Because dharma of another is fraught with fear. Fear of leading to undesirable consequences. You don't know what is the package that goes with the other dharma. You may be excited with one aspect of it, but unseen behind the scenes, there are so many aspects which you may not be aware of. You are not cut out for it. Better leave it alone. Then Arjuna is asking, Atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati bhushah anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha. See, this all being the case, by what does the person commits negative karma, sin, as though pushed by some force, even though not desiring to. Here he is given an opportunity to explain in detail the different qualities, the different factors that cause a person to stray away. If you remember, because of meditating on the object you get attachment, because of attachment bond desire, because of desire frustrated you are getting anger, because of anger your memory is lost, because memory is lost, thinking is lost, because thinking is lost, the person is lost. Like that it came, right? So now the Lord is going to elaborate on that. Bhagavan vacha kama esha krodha esha rajoguna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapma vidhe namiha vairinam. The desire, this anger born of the rajoguna is a glutton and a great singer. Know that to be the enemy here and now. Why it is a glutton and a great singer? Glutton because this desire is a glutton because it's never satisfied. Anger is a great singer because it leads to all kinds of negative, all kinds of sinful actions. Even though you may not know that when you are in a good sense, you may not do something. You may do the same thing when you are under the spell of anger. Dhumena vriyade vaknir yathadarsho vena cha yatol benavrato garbhas tatha tenedam avratam. Just as the fire that is covered by the clouds of smoke, just as a mirror that is covered by dust, and just as a fetus is covered by the womb, so also knowledge is covered by this binding desire. A desire that is not understood. A desirer that is not understood. A person who considers oneself as the desirer and is under the grip of desire, such a desire clouds the understanding. It takes your intellect for a ride and your prefrontal cortex works as a slave to your limbic system. That's what he said. Avratam jnanametena jnanino nitya vairina kama rupena kaunteya dushpurenana cha. Knowledge is covered by this insatiable fire of desire, the constant enemy of the wise, Kaunteya. This insatiable fire of desire, which is the constant enemy of the wise, this covers the This covers the brightness of knowledge. Why it is an eternal enemy of the wise? A wise person is constantly aware of the problem of coming under the spell of desire. So it is a constant enemy of the wise. Not for those people who are not wise. Those who are otherwise, they come under the spell of desire. They think desire is my friend because of the passion. I am able to accomplish a lot of things. Passion is good. Desire is good. It is sinfully passionate and all that they say because they are going to come, which they regret later. Indriyani mano buddhir asyadhisthana muchyate eter vimohayatyesha jnanamavritya dehinam. Its location, the location of the desire, is said to be the senses, mind and the intellect. With these, the desire deludes a person, covering his understanding. Therefore, Arjuna, tasma tvam indriyan yadav niyamya bharatarshadha papmanam prajahikyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Therefore, Arjuna, the foremost in the clan of Bharata, is encouraging him. Controlling the senses at the outset, destroy indeed this sinner, the destroyer of knowledge and wisdom. This kama, which leads to the krodha, the desire that leads to anger, etc. Destroy this binding, this bondage with the desire by controlling the senses at the outset. Controlling here means not vain control, controlling with the mind. How to control, he is going to say. How to control the senses so that you are not in the grip of desire. The next verses talk about. Indriyani paran yahur indriyan yesya param manaha manasastu para buddhiryo buddhehe paratastu saha. They say that indriyani paran yahur indriyebhya param manaha manasastu para buddhiryo buddhehe paratastu saha. They say that the sense organs are superior to the body. The mind is superior to the sense organs. The intellect is superior to the mind, whereas the one who is superior to the intellect is the self. And Arjuna, evam buddhehe param buddhva samstabhyatmanam atmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kamarupam durasaram. Understand this sequence. The sense faculties are subtler and finer and capable of affecting the body. The body cannot move by itself without the senses impelling, pushing it to move. The senses cannot move by themselves without the mind impelling them to move. The mind cannot move by itself without the buddhi supporting that movement. And the buddhi cannot move by itself without that sense of self and the self which is the consciousness because of which the buddhi is working. Now, the self is higher than the buddhi means the self-knowledge is higher than the habitual errors in the buddhi also can be taken. Okay? So in this context he says, Arjuna, knowing that which is superior to the intellect in this way, knowledge of the self, using the knowledge that I am the imperishable self, the self-complete Satchidananda who is superior to the buddhi also, who is not under the control of the buddhi also, the one who is not conditioned with the buddhi also. I am the one who is the complete Satchidananda. With this knowledge, having made the mind steady with the buddhi, here, samstabhyatmana atmana, stabilizing the self with the self, means stabilizing the mental self with the thinking self. Stabilizing the mental person, I am disturbed, you said, the disturbed person with the intelligent person. May the buddhi be given predominance. Using the buddhi that is devoted to self-knowledge, may you bring the mind back to the self-knowledge, to the truth of the self, and thus the senses will follow the mind, and thus you will not come under the grip of the desire. By this process, destroy the enemy that is in the form of desire, that which is so difficult to understand. This is Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Karma Yogo Nama Tritiyo Dhyaya. This is the Om Tat Sat. This is the Brahman is the only reality. Om, which is Brahman, is the only reality. Thus ends the chapter called Karma Yoga, having the topic of karma in the Bhagavad Gita, which is in the form of a dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, which is the essence of the Upanishads, whose subject matter is both knowledge of Brahman and yoga. Subject matter of Bhagavad Gita is a Shastra of yoga and Brahma Jnana. Third chapter is over. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. सर्वेषां सत्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु, सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ नमो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय.